Alright, Doctor Who fans, welcome to a Who Universe news as we are now fastly approaching the final episode of the series. This is the beginning of the last weekend of this series run of Doctor Who. Obviously, we might as well bring up the ratings again, considering we haven't brought up ratings for the last few news reports, particularly the fact the official figures for the Interstellar Song Contest actually improves from overnight figures. It had 3.75 million tuning in for that entire week, which shows that the episode did receive some love and was probably beloved over the first episode. Kind of tells you that that was a lot of people's favorite episode this year. And then the overnight figures for Wishworld surprisingly had 1.83 million, so they managed to get many people on board with this episode. Well, mind you, it was very confusing, the fact that the Doctor forgot who he was for most of the story, and then he had to remember because of the Rani, and the word Omega brought back memories for him, which I'm still baffled by how the Doctor would forget who he is. There you go. Nevertheless, that was basically what the ratings say, and I mean it's fair. It's fair, and I'm sure the ratings are going to improve with the reality war, as everyone's going to be watching at the same time this weekend. So obviously it's going massively improve from what we've seen in previous weeks. Now, in terms of the reality war, there has been multiple issues with Archie Punjabi, who's playing the Rani, along with Anita Dobson, who's playing the Mrs. Flood version of the Rani, and Millie Gibson as well, have all been talking about the reality war. And in terms of, well, it's interesting because, I mean, they obviously, there has been some new photos that have come out that show Unit back in its true force again, which is really interesting that Unit have returned to their normal selves now in this episode, considering what we saw in the previous episode wasn't technically Unit, it was a completely different company. So somehow, some way, Unit have returned in this episode. Don't know how they do it. We'll obviously find out this weekend. So in terms of Archie Punjabi's, in regards to the Rani's motivation, she tells TD Times that she doesn't see herself as a villain. She sees herself as a brilliant scientist with a mission. She's totally out there, totally out of sync with any morale, whatever, so she'll do whatever it takes to accomplish her mission. Whereas the Doctor is out to save the universe, the Rani is out to decease it. So that's obviously her perspective of things. And then when asked by BBC, when they did an interview with her and Anita Dawson, both playing the Rani, of course, they say the two Ranis are united in a purpose in their mission, but their diametrically isn't exactly stone. Rani is the leader, Mrs. Flood's Rani hovers behind, but the real fun kicks in when we see these two characters alone and they turn into Britical sisters. Interesting way to describe their sort of chemistry, but then they go on to say that, it's still brilliant, still unapologetic. She's totally out of sync with her morale compass. She's a wild force. She's burns anyone or anything that she gets what she wants and dances with chaos like it's her birthright. We see the Time Lord and the Time Lady go head to head in a high stakes showdown. Who's gonna win? Who will claim victory? You don't know what happens next. The finale is like two chess players who will make the final move and play check. That's an interesting perspective. The fact that they're treating this like it's a chess game. Very interesting way of looking at this finale. Is like, oh yeah, it's a chess game. So who's going to make checkmate first? Kind of makes you sort of think about that going into the finale. And then Anita Dawson, by the way, also got interviewed in TD Times, because TD Times are doing extensive coverage for the finale. So they caught up with her as well. And her perspective, she gives a completely different response to what Archie Punjabi's response was. And that is that whether that's true on her or being an egomaniac, she's only got her word for it. After all, she's only around because Mrs. Flood engineered that shared an ambition, but their approach is different. She's very much, I do the press, you do the legwork in the lab. Literally, ultimately, I see Mrs. Flood as an enabler. She loves power, but she doesn't want to be right at the front line. She's practical, but enables the person in power to further her own agenda, but steps back at the last minute to take the flank. So it kind of makes you wonder whether or not Mrs. Flood is truly on the side of her other Rani self. Maybe we could see a betrayal potentially in this episode. What do you reckon? Do you reckon there could be a betrayal between the two Ranis? There might be that Mrs. Flood might betray her other half, bi-generation self of the Rani potentially. Maybe we'll have to see, because I'm wondering if Mrs. Flood is going to betray the other Rani potentially in this story, and that a storyline we might see this weekend. I just thought about that after reading this interview. And then Millie Gibson was interviewed on Radio Times about the finale, and she actually teases about Omega's arrival in the finale finale where he says he's terrified. I think people are going to be really shocked. So it kind of makes it sound like we will see Omega in some form this weekend, or at least that's Millie Gibson's teasing here in interviews right now. And then in terms of what Millie Gibson thinks about the Ronnie's motive, she says the Ronnie's kind of worships Omega. I think it's really cool two-villain dynamic. More the better. This is why it's the biggest battle for the Doctor, and these are two of his biggest villains that he has to defeat. Should be very interesting to see how that goes. And then in regards to Ruby's journey, Millie Gibson would then tell TD Time, Ruby is always built up to become her own hero, which is really beautiful. I think she does that in this finale. You never know what happens with her. Gets herself into all kinds of trouble. Her bad taste men, for one thing, we'll see. We can't wait for viewers to see more of Belinda and Ruby together in the finale. They're so different, but they're both very brave in their dilemma and distress, and I really like. So obviously talking a bit about the chemistry between me and Belinda. Be interested to see what that chemistry is going to be like. But nevertheless, there'll be a link in the description where they'll also chat with Joe Howard King, who plays Conrad. They chat with him about his role in the finale as well. And yeah, they've just basically taken interviews from the TV magazines about from all the different actors who are involved in this finale, which is really cool. So you get hear from their perspective of how they feel about the finale going into this weekend. Now, another thing to note, of course, the Bone Place is just, well, I'm not going to mention about the Bone Place stuff. You can find that out for yourself this weekend. But the running time, as I mentioned before, is going to be 1 hour 6 minutes. It has somewhat confirmed. It may have been confirmed here that the teaser trailer for the War Between the Land and the Sea is planned to be dropped this weekend. TV Zone have even said it as well, that they've been hearing teaser trailer for the spin-off is going to be happening after Doctor Who this weekend. So it looks like after the finale, we are going to get our first look at the new spin-off, the Unit spin-off for Doctor Who, and that's when we're going to finally get our first look at spin-off in action for the first time, which I'm very interested to see what this spin-off's going to look like in terms of what it's going to look like on our screens when we see our first footage of this spin-off in action, knowing that, you know, like I said, I mean, considering the fact we're not going to know when it's going to air, there's a part of me that kind of wonders if it is going to air around the new year of 2026. So we're looking at like first half of the year, potentially, of next year. That'd be the time frame of when we'll see it. We'll have to see, but I'm kind of leaning towards it's going to be probably January, maybe even springtime next year when we'll likely see this spin-off happen, unless they are planning to get it out by the end of the year, which that could be the surprise element of all this, is that they try to get it out by the autumn. But I feel like it's likely going to be in 2026. It's going to be like first half of next year. They're probably going to wait till after Christmas to debut it, but you never know. They might surprise us and get it out sooner than expected. We'll have to wait and see. We'll see how it all goes, and we'll see how the BBC are going to schedule, because we don't really know necessarily when they're going to be dropping it. So hopefully we'll know soon enough. As well as this, Doctor Who magazine have also got a new bookazine coming up. They are going to be releasing a bookazine for the Cybermen, where they're going to be documenting their history, Doctor Who, including their design of the costumes from the 10th planet all the way to previous Cybermen adventures. If you want to take a look at all the different designs of the Cybermen that have happened over the years, and some of the cool concept arts they've done for the Cybermen over the years, which is really, really cool. Even the recent Power of the Doctor design, where they made them into Time Lords, which was crazy to think the Cybermen could be used as Time Lord. Crazy. But yeah, there you go. So that's pretty cool that we getting a glimpse at the Cybermen design and basically learning the history of the Cybermen's 60 years of design choices that they've had in Doctor Who history, which is really, really cool. They are giving us a backstory those designs came to be. Glimpse at, well, we actually now know the air date for the Doctor Who Unleashed spin-off, which is being referred to as 20 Years in Wales. It's going to be coming out next Saturday, the 7th of June on BBC Three, and it's going to be airing 7 p.m. on BBC Three, as well as BBC Wales will also be transmitting it, and also BBC One will be transmitting it at 11 next Saturday, which will be in the evening of Saturday. They're going to be transmitting this, and of course, as I mentioned before, this is a celebration of 20 years of Doctor Who, where they're going to be catching up with Billy Piper, Pearl Mackie, Stephen Moffat, Chris Chibnall, David Tennant, Jodie Whittaker, and even Ncuti Gatwa is going to be in there, and Vanessa Selfer is going to be in there as well. Russell T Davies talking about, as Ross was going to talk about how he brought the show back in 2000, and then leading up to where we are today, pretty much, which is really, it's going to be very special to celebrate 20 years of New Who on Doctor Who Unleashed next week, and it's going to be really lovely to see that special go out. And yeah, it's going to be a nice celebration. It's also going to be great to hear from David Tennant and Billy Piper, who are going to reunite celebration on Doctor Who Unleashed. It'll be great to hear from them about how they got into Doctor Who in the first place, and what got them into the roles they took in Doctor Who. So that'll be really cool to hear some backstories from them, and also from Jodie and Pearl Mackie, Mandip Gill as well. We haven't seen since The Power of the Doctor, so it'll be really cool to hear from them as well, and Stephen Moffat and Chibnall's perspective of things as well. So that's going to be cool, coming out next weekend as we celebrate 20 years of them being in Wales. It's going to be a lovely episode of Doctor Unleashed to look forward to celebrate the cause. So yeah, so that's happening next Saturday, 7 p.m. BBC Three. If you want to tune in to this very special Doctor Who Unleashed, looking at 20 years the revival series of Doctor Who. As well as this, we also have a deluxe edition, collector's edition, should I say, of the Doctor Who calendar for 2026. It's a deluxe edition calendar that's it's I believe it's the big one of the big calendars that they release each year. This calendar specifically is going to be coming out on the 1st of August, and it's interesting because this calendar is prized by different posters that have come out over the years. So you've got a poster for The Sound of Drums, you've got a poster for Daleks, Cybermen, Zygons, Autons, etc. from the 60s, 70s, etc. And then you have like a classic style Dalek from the 60s. All sorts of different poster designs related to past episodes and past characters from the past of Doctor Who, and also international electromatics relating to the invasion, the company of the Cybermen from the invasion also paying tributes in this as well. And they've got posters of like Peter Capaldi with Gallifrey in the background. Really cool artwork that's being used for this deluxe edition cover. Make its way to in stores and on Amazon from the 1st of August if you want to get your hands on this very unique calendar that they're going to be releasing to celebrate 2026. And of course, the official calendars for this year, they'll be revealing more details about that over the summer as we approach the autumn, because of course they'll be releasing official calendars for this year's Doctor Who for 2026. And then there's also going to be a book coming out regarding Doctor Who's history in Blackpool, because of course Doctor Who has had exhibitions in Blackpool between 1975 and 1985, and they've decided to do a whole book documenting history of Doctor Who exhibitions in Blackpool, which is going to be really cool to see, like photos of like some of the things that have happened at Paul. And in fact, they've even got an image of the back of the cover which shows one of the exhibitions from the past which took place in Blackpool, where they had Bessie on display, and just like these really cool images. I think it's related to an exhibition that took place in the 80s, which shows some really lovely artwork and stuff, really cool displays that took place at that event in Black many years ago, which is really lovely that they managed to get loads of photos of this exhibition when it actually happened in Black. And it's a shame it doesn't exist in Blackpool anymore, but it's really lovely to see, give you a perspective of what it looked like back in the day when these exhibitions were happening in Blackpool, which is really lovely. And it's really lovely. It's just a really lovely book, and they're releasing it. Well, it's basically released right now if you want to get your hands on the book. It's £29 to buy, but it's really... And they even give you an option to read a sample of it on Amazon if you want to read a sample of this book. It's basically a paperback, so it's just a lovely book that they've created to celebrate the history of exhibitions in Blackpool that Doctor Who has had over the years. Yeah, really lovely book. Really lovely designs and lovely photos in this book. So there'll be a link in the description if you want to get your hands on that book for sure. But apart from that, really, there's not really a lot else to discuss, really, except for the fact that we're now just waiting for the finale to come out, and once the finale's been released, we're going to see our first look at the war between the land and the sea, and then we're just waiting to see if Doctor Who's going to have a Christmas special at the end of the year. Hopefully they will. At this this time, we don't know. We don't know whether Christmas is going to happen for Doctor Who this year or not. I'm hoping there will be some hope for Doctor Who this Christmas to air. But don't worry, because we are going to be we're going to have our own 20 years of New Who celebration, where we're going to look back at all the series from 2005 to 2021, which is series 13, Flux series that is. We're going to look back at all the 13 series that have happened for Doctor Who and all the great stuff that came out of those series. And we'll look back at some of my favourite episodes of those series as we celebrate 20 years of New Who. So thanks for watching. Look out for my upcoming review for the Reality War and all the other reviews to come this summer. So I will catch you all in the next one. See you then.